for attorneys who are driven to achieve like super aggressive growth, where should they focus their resources to get the most significant return?
And their people.
And their people?
And their people. So you want to invest in your A players. You want to have clear vision, clear KPIs, that giving our ROI to the firm, because otherwise you just have a lot of employees, but they don't have clarity of what they're going or what the firm's vision is.
If you're an attorney in the pursuit of a successful law practice, fulfilling career, and the life of your dreams, this podcast has it all. Behind the Bench gives you great tools to overcome the unique challenges you face every day as a law firm owner. Welcome to Behind the Bench podcast with your host, Josh Konigsberg, author, partner, and co-founder of Law Firm Marketing Pros and lifelong entrepreneur.
Welcome to another captivating episode of Behind the Bench podcast. This is your host, Josh Konigsberg, and as many of you know, I'm a digital marketing expert specializing in helping lawyers generate more qualified leads online and thus enhance their law firm revenues. Join us as we explore the fascinating realm of law, featuring insightful discussions, seasoned lawyers, legal experts, and industry leaders. Special thank you to our sponsor, Law Firm Marketing Pros. They get you more leads, more clients, and more profits. Welcome to another exciting episode of Behind the Bench podcast, brought to you by Law Firm Marketing Pros. I'm super excited today, and I'm honored to welcome Karen Quintanilla, a visionary whose story is as inspiring as her achievements. From overcoming incredible odds as a teenager to co-founding King of Kings Business and Tax Advisory Services, truly a tragedy to triumph story. Karen has dedicated her life to empowering others through financial strategy and business growth. With over 16 years of experience, she has helped transform more than 2,000 businesses, turning ideas into multi-million-dollar successes and helping hundreds of law firm owners across the country be more successful. Her resilience, expertise, and passion for building generational wealth make her a true force in the field. Karen, it's a privilege to have you. What a great background and great story. Super excited to take a deeper dive in to tell our audience all about it. Your journey from facing incredible challenges, including a period of homelessness as a teenager, to co-owning Kings of Kings is truly, truly inspiring. Tell us your story. How did these early struggles shape your determination and wisdom? And what drives you to help others to build success today? I can't wait to hear this.
So as a young child, my dad used to serve the military when we were back in El Salvador. And I used to be, a dreamer. I used to always dream that one day I would do something that will help others and possibly even change, be part of a bigger change to change the world, right? So that was me when I was a kid. I was probably at that time anywhere from 6 to 7 years old. One time I was just outside my house and I was just looking at the sky, and one of my professors had invited me to her house in the city. And where we were used to live before in the town, we didn't have any electricity, or we didn't have any resources or water. We have to go to the city and buy and purchase water to bring to the town where we were in. So we were extremely poor. And so when she invited me, and I went to the city, and I was actually able to see that there was something different from where I was actually growing up, I started dreaming even more. And I said, I can be part of something big. I can be part of a change. So I made a decision to go into competitions back in El Salvador, and I was able to get away, to get into the embassy, and from there, coming to the United States. But back then I was just a young teenager. And I thought, United States is going to be as a small country as it is in El Salvador. I will be able to walk in the streets, get to know the people around me, or get to know the neighbors, and, be able to work, go to school, and do all of these things. What I came to find out when I actually got in the plane, landed in Maryland, and I, get here into the US, I arrived, and I start walking out of the airport. No one is waiting for me. And I'm just a young teenager, 12 years old. And I started going, walking and walking and walking. And I go into a park. I have no cell phone. And the only money I have is $10 in my pocket. So I spend the night in that park. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't know anyone. I don't know the language. I am hungry and I'm extremely cold. So so I started getting scared, and from there my story begins. That's when I started knocking on doors and saying, I know how to work. I come from a country that I was taught as a young kid how to actually work, not just go to school and sleep and eat and kind of depend on the parents. I was very independent. And so no one will hire me as a child, and people will look at me like we're like, okay, she's probably trying to steal from me or trying to do something. So everybody pushes you away at that age, and they don't know what you actually are in the street or not, right? So I go walking distance to Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., there's this bus that is coming to Atlanta. So I decide to ride the bus to Atlanta, and I got my only $10 that I have. I get a ticket, get on the bus to Atlanta. When I arrive here in the city of Atlanta, I see that it's worse than it was back in Maryland. Over there, at least people was a little bit more, kind of not as pushy, but I was able, in here, they were more like, I don't know, I kind of like experienced a little bit more people more violent or more aggressive. And yes, they spoke Spanish because I was praying, for somebody that speaks Spanish so that I can understand what they're saying. I didn't understand the language and I didn't understand what people meant, and people walk so fast. And I only had one bag, a few changes of clothes. And obviously I was smelly by that time because I hadn't had a shower. I would eat like anything that I could put my hands into, stuff like that. So when I come here to Atlanta, I started looking for a job. Obviously, no one is going to employ you, especially if you're a young teenager. You're in the streets and you were not reliable. So this restaurant opened the doors and said, okay, we'll give you the opportunity to work, but you do have to promise that you're going to go to school and you're going to shower and you're going to be responsible. And I said, yes, my dad was an army man, and he used to train me how to be responsible, have discipline, be consistent, and, never steal from anyone, never do anything bad, and all of these things, right? So then I started working at the restaurant. I go to the Gwinnett County Public Schools, and they said, well, who's your guardian? Who's your legal guardian? I don't have one. Well, we have to go through the court process. So by that time, I was the one that actually took my case in front of the court when I was, and fought my case in front of the judge and said, I can support myself. I don't need anyone to pay my things. I can work and I can go to school. And so long story short, I was able to enroll myself in high school. I was my own guardian at the time, and I finished my 4 years of high school. Then from there, I went to college, and 0807 comes about, recession, right? So I was working at this restaurant. I was still trying to pursue my career. I was trying at the time to, I enrolled barely for my legal studies degree in a university. And so I'm there with my 2 years in college. So I'm jobless when the whole recession comes about. I become homeless again for the second time. And I said, okay, if I survive once, I can do it again. So then I met Juan. We met in high school, and I used to say that his parents were my uncles, so that I could, have access to other type of, like in the school, that, programs and things like that you do have to sign and have someone adult sign on your behalf. So I will ask his parents, could you just please sign for me on this document, because I need access to this program, so I need to be part of this. But they even though they know that I'm my own guardian, they're still not allowing me to do these things. And so I was praying I wanted to live a life of purpose, and I didn't want it just a job. I was like, I want to be part of something big. And what will that be? And so I'm here going through college. And one day I come back to the school, and one of the advisors comes up and says to me and Juan, hey guys, with this whole financial situation going on, with everything, you guys are really sharp and really smart. Why don't you guys just consider doing a dual degree or switching to accounting? And I'm like, hell no. That is not gonna happen. I'm like, I do not want to be an accountant. I'm like, no. And then Juan looks at me and he smiles and says, well, you're the one that's been praying all this time. So I think they're calling you, not me. And that's my story. That's how King of Kings starts. And then from there, we decided to, switch to dual degrees. We get our degrees in legal and in accounting, and we go into the accounting field. We start doing internships at accounting firms. We go into the government more to try to understand how the court system works, how the federal system works, the tax code, and volunteering in the IRS, doing audits for businesses, and all of these things to gain that experience. And in 2012, that's when we decided to establish the firm after, like 4+ years of kind of like training ourselves and obviously finishing our degrees.
Amazing. So for the audience, I know who Juan is, but the audience doesn't know who Juan is. So why don't you share that very quickly?
So Juan is the co-founder of King of Kings, and he's the senior accountant here in the firm.
Okay, great. So your business partners with Juan, and your background, you mentioned law, obviously a degree in accounting. So what's the law background? Were you pre-law in college?
We were pre-law in college, yes. And I did 1 year of law school, which I didn't finish after the fact because I'm like, I got my master in accounting. I'm like, okay, that's what I need.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah.
Amazing. So there's the connection for all of you attorneys listening. That's the connection. Okay, great. All right. So King of Kings that's the firm, has become a trusted resource for financial strategy and growth, obviously tax advisement, as you said. Can you share the story behind its creation and how you and Juan built a business that helps professionals, including law firm owners, achieve financial stability and long-term success?
So one of the things that, we started to discover in our early years in our career is that people were only concerned about the tax payments. And their concern was having too much money was a problem. And I was like, how is that a problem? And then not having enough was a problem. And so I'm like, okay, what is the problem? Is it the person or the money? Because at this point, I'm confused. You don't have money, you don't have cash flow, then you have a problem. You do have too much, then you're like, I have a problem. Then I'm like, I just don't understand. It having too much is a problem, it having too little is a problem. So with Juan and I started realizing is that people were not anticipating their year and were not planning their year accordingly to their decisions. So they had a thought in their head or their business plan, especially in the law field. We noticed that attorneys will anticipate how many cases will come in throughout that year. In the quarters, they knew their highs and lows in low months, but they didn't anticipate what their KPIs were, their budgets, how to manage their cash flow, especially if it's a personal injury firm. They depend a lot in the line of credits. We started noticing that many attorneys as well got burned out. And so law firms is the only industry or business that you can just transfer to someone else that is a non-licensed attorney. And family members had no benefits. They weren't employed by any of the companies owned by the co-founder or founder of the law firm. We started noticing that distributions were taken in a consistent basis. So people were just working. They didn't have a business that created freedom for them. Didn't have a business that gave them the accessibility to create wealth for their family members, their loved ones, and themselves. All we saw in the first 8 years of our career was people were working every day, making money, but the same way they made money, their money was going out of the door by the end of the year. Then they reset the clock in January again and start all over again. So I was like, we have to change the game. We have to change the way that our clients are doing business. We have to change the way that they're reporting things. It's not that we're actually changing the numbers. It's just a decision in the mindset. So now, I don't know if that answers your question. I don't want to.
Yeah, it does. Actually, it's a great segue into the next question, which really is strategic financial planning. That's the direction that you're going. And so it's not something that they learn in law school, right? So some people obviously are better than others at it, just like some people are better at marketing or networking than others. And I know that it can really feel overwhelming for our listeners. So the strategic planning can be very overwhelming and daunting, right? For many law firm owners. And the question was, what steps do you recommend to help them align their financial goals with their aggressive growth objectives and strategies? And just yesterday, I was speaking to a lawyer, law firm owner who was at 1.8 million. She wants to get to 7 million in 1 year. It's super, super aggressive. From a marketing perspective, I know that's possible, but very difficult. And she probably doesn't have the budget or doesn't realize what kind of budget it would take to achieve that. That's strategic financial, that's strategic marketing planning. If I were to take that, okay, you want to go from 1.8 to 7 million in 1 year, why don't we do it in 2 years, right? That's the type. So what types of steps do you recommend on the financial side of that? I can talk about that all day long in marketing, but on the financial side, what do you recommend?
So on the financial side, I would recommend, number one would be your capacity, right? So if you want to go from 1.8 to $7 million in 1 year, you're going to need help. So who are the key players that you're going to be hiring in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4? So what is the budget for that when it comes to salaries, right, and benefits that we're going to be offering to these team members that are going to come and help us make the 7 million happen? Then the next one is real estate, right? So are we going to do virtually or are we going to bring these people in-house? When does our lease expire? I noticed that oftentimes we make these decisions and we want to grow exponentially, and we can because there are some cases, and it happens, right? Sometimes law firms, especially PI industry, I see it a lot. They get this catastrophic case and it turns into like from 5 to 10 or from 5 to 20, in a snap of, of momentarily, right? In 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. But who do you need on your team? And then what are those investments that you have to be making? So software, operational wise. So you need to have your operations budget. You need to have your people budget. You need to have your space, which is your rent. Are you going to be purchasing or are you going to stay in the same location that you're in? And then your marketing, which is extremely important, like you were saying, right? We need a budget for that. And your sales people, who are going to be those attorneys, associates, or intake process people or runners that you're going to have in your team that are going to be doing all of these sales, for all of these leads, right? So when we do an analysis on a firm and when we create a success plan, we look at everything. How your KPIs per position tied up to your main metrics, main goal in the business overall.
So what you've just described to me sounds like a strategic plan. And then what you're doing is you're putting a budget to it. Now, do you have a template for that you use, or does it?
I do. Okay. We have created a dashboard. It's a 1 page, so everything fits in 1 page. You're able to see your history of your company for 3 years and see how profitable you are in a monthly basis, and if you're on target or off target of your goals, yearly goals.
Great.
That number, we call it as well. We have an area that we call a calculator. What's it called? It's called a calculator, consultation calculator, so that if, we know if our conversion rate is 70%, 80%, or depending on the percentage, how many leads and how many clients do we need in order to make the $7 million that we need?
Is that a free resource, or is that something that you go through once someone becomes a client of yours?
That's something that once someone becomes a client of the firm, we do an analysis, right? We do a market analysis in the area that they're in as well to see how possible and feasible is what they're planning or intending to do for that year, how realistic it is for them to accomplish it. But we do have free resources when it comes to how to manage their cash flow and project, and when it comes to how to create a law firm, a specific industry specific budgets. Okay. There are certain percentage that you have to obviously look out for in order to make sure that your firm is going to be profitable.
So where can our listeners find those resources?
That will be in kingofkingsllc.com/resources.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. So taxation, bookkeeping, financial matters are essential, yet very challenging for law firm owners, right?
Yes.
What are the most common mistakes that you see, and how do you help them avoid those mistakes?
They're iota.
What was that?
IOTA, the trust account.
Okay.
The
Okay.
trust account. So, majority of clients that come to our firm either have their IOTA miscategorized in their books, in their balance sheet, or their accountant or bookkeeper categorizes transactions in the IOTA as, as if you were utilizing money as an operating. In the IOTA, it's a liability to the firm. Many accountants have it either as an asset, they have it as an expense. And so you see it everywhere. And so these law firms that come to us because they have issues or their books are not how they're supposed to be or reconcile how they need to be, they're getting constantly denied from banks. So they're like, you are a liability. We're not going to approve you for XYZ amount of loan or a line of credit. I had 3 firms that came to us this year that they've been renting their location for about 7 years. And so they were paying in rent. We did an analysis in the area, X amount of dollars. And I said, well, if you just get your own building, if you buy your own location, you will reduce by half the square footage of what you're paying right now, and you have your own location, you will get to depreciate it, you will get to set it up in another separate LLC, and that's the wealth for your family because the spouse is a non-licensed attorney. And the children are not, obviously right now, we don't know if in the future they're gonna become attorneys or not, but right now they're not. So if something happens to this business owner, she can't transfer her law firm to the spouse, but she can transfer the property. And
Right.
now the kids are also in payroll through the other entity that owns that commercial building.
That's great advice. Tremendous advice. So many attorneys struggle choosing the right business structure for their firm. What advice would you give an aggressive, growth-minded attorney on the best ways to manage the growth of their business while minimizing their tax exposure?
So one of the often case scenarios that we see is that many attorneys, when they come to our firm, they either have an S corporation or they have a partnership. Either of those is fine, depending on the vision of the attorney. But if you have 30 or plus employees under your S corporation business, and you're having aggressive growth mindset, right? Something happened with one of those employees. You get a case against you. It goes against your law firm. So you're the lawyer. Obviously, they know the liability, but they're not protecting their assets by having everyone in the same entity. So depending on the vision, business plan of the business, we set up a structure of entities to protect the law firm and the assets owned by the law firm by separating the assets from the main operating business.
I'm dying to hear more about that, but we'll save that conversation for another time. I love it. I was not expecting that answer, so I love it. Can you share a specific, and you just shared a story about 3 firms that came to you and your structure, but can you share any other specific stories where your expertise helped the law firm achieve some substantial or significant growth to overcome a major financial challenge?
Yes. So we got one law firm that what they do is personal injury. They don't do any other type of or practice any other type of law. They're heavy driven by a line of credit that they use. When we got this firm, we noticed that they were missing out on a lot of opportunities. They do have, some big cases that, potential cases that will turn the firm from being a $20 million firm to taking it, anywhere from 30 or plus because of these cases that they have in the pipeline right now if they were to settle. So when we looked at the financials and when we looked at the credibility with the banks, they had no credibility with the banks and they had exhausted their 2 lines of credit to continue to run operations. So we started seeing, managing of their cash flow statements, and we did an analysis of KPIs. What were the metrics that they had in the firm? What other cases that they had in pipeline that they could, resolve earlier than not? And when it came to their IOTA and negotiating with banking for line of credit at a reduced fee, how do they become their own bank as opposed having the bank, substantiate or give them a bigger line of credit? So analyzing the financial statements and analyzing the pipeline of the firm, it's something that is extremely, extremely important for law firms. And sometimes this is overlooked. Does not reflect your balance sheet. A lot of the times the assets that you have, how many cases you're estimating that you're gonna close in the next 6 months or in the next 9 months of the year. And when you're looking for accessibility to credit, you're often getting denied. And how do you operate when banks don't wanna give you more credit? So
Okay.
this is a firm that, was able to access, right now, I believe we are at about $5 million in livestock credit, which is something that they actually needed to continue to operate in the business. And so that was accessible to them by doing the whole restructure of their financials.
Wonderful. Let's talk quickly about some trends and developments. So specifically the payroll, because it can be so time consuming. And it can feel like a waste of time. It's non-revenue generating. And it's what I'll call essentially a bad time trade. What are the key elements of an effective payroll system that ensures both compliance, but yet is efficient?
So if we just talked about transactional, right? So you have your employees come in, they will clock in or check in into a device that is either facial recognition or fingerprint, because sometimes, but the issue that law firms encounter, especially if you have, 20 plus employees or more, is that a constant of people not clocking in and out if you're by hour. Now, if you're salary basis, it just depends on, how many days a week or so you have to report, or who do you have to report to. So setting up those systems in place so that people cannot amend, or people have to, especially if they're hourly, going to the ones that are hourly, have to clock in and out, have those type of systems in place, so that timesheets are more accurate than not. And when it comes to running the benefits, you do have to make sure that your systems are connected, not only your payroll processing system, but as well the one that is also for benefits. If medical insurance, if it is, PTO, if it is like your HR software. So a lot of law firms use different apps. So, it would just be making sure that the softwares connect and communicate among each other, especially now with so much automatizations, AI, you can connect all of these things together. Paying benefits, 401ks, retirement accounts, disability, life insurance, and all of these things that run through the same smooth software. Because oftentimes what I see is that law firms run their payroll in one software, managers writing checks for benefits on the other hand, and these two are not connected and communicating with each other. And so either you have discrepancy in the numbers, or you have payments that are being missed, or you have more chaos and being more disorganized. But what I would like to say in regards to payroll is that it surprises me how many firms still run their payroll through their main operating business, regardless of the liability that they're facing by having all of the employees in the main operating businesses.
So what do you recommend?
That the payroll, it's run by a separate management company.
Okay.
Because if you get a claim, and I mean, I'm talking to lawyers, right? They know the law, they practice the law. If you get a claim against your main operating company, it doesn't stop you from operating. You continue, doing business, but you have your management company that runs your payroll and processes all of your payroll. When it comes to employees' benefits, if there's ever a discrimination case or anything like that against you, or workers' compensation case, then that is completely separate on your management company, but it has nothing to do with your firm. Okay. Otherwise, you have to pass those operations. And I see that a lot. Like I said, I see that very frequent. I do get cases or clients that come to us, again, for the layer of, structuring where to run, what are we going to do on this entity, or structuring the firm correctly so that they can protect in a way, their operating business when it comes to their finances and reportings and all of that.
So sounds like the management company would then be like almost like a placement company or a PEO, right? Where you could run all of the benefits and everything through the management company to reduce your liability.
And your main operating business will obviously pay all of your fees to that management company
Got it.
for your
Okay. Yep.
employees. Mhm.
So for attorneys who are driven to achieve like super aggressive growth, where should they focus their resources to get the most significant return?
And their people.
In their people?
And their people. So you want to invest in your A players. You want to have clear vision, clear KPIs, that giving our ROI to the firm, because otherwise you just have a lot of employees, but they don't have clarity of what they're going or what the firm's vision is.
Great advice. I love that. So based on your journey, which is absolutely incredible, and your expertise, what final nuggets of wisdom or insight can you share with aggressive growth-minded attorneys who are looking to overcome the challenges to rapidly grow their law firm and build a lasting legacy of financial stability?
I will say, take a few days to think about your family, what you're trying to leave behind. How would you like for people to remember you, right? Once you're not operating in your business, are you going to sell your business in the near future, or transfer it to someone else? That is very important, because if you're trying to sell the firm, it takes about 5 to 10 years, depending on how organized you are, to
Okay.
prepare a firm to be, for sale. If you're going just to transfer to a family member or one of your children to someone else or an associate within the company, that is also a process that you have to prepare for. If you're trying to leave legacy for your family, right? Legacy is that those changes that we leave, but it's not so much monetarily. But if we're trying to leave wealth to our family members, then what we want is that those distributions that you're taking from the business and the profits that you're about to report right now in this tax season, that you allocate them in that proper channel so you can reinvest. And this is something that I usually tell clients, right? It's like have $1 worth another dollar. Be intentional. Have intentionality of where you invest in your money.
Okay. Great advice. So now it's time for us to move on to what I call the lightning round. This is where people get to know you a little bit better. We all do business with people we know, like, and trust. I have 10 questions. I just fire off the questions, and whatever comes to mind, you answer. There's no right or wrong answers. Again, this is just people can get to know you better, Karen. So I'm just going to start off with, what never fails to make you laugh?
When I see people, sometimes when I prove somebody wrong.
Okay.
Which
I like that. That's a great answer. So what's the best compliment you ever got?
That I'm very consistent. Somebody said it in simple words: you always keep messing with it.
Person who you would trade places with for a day?
I think I really like person that I will probably be either Joe Maxwell or Alex Harmozy.
Okay. Wow. Okay. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, Jesus. Eating too much.
It is what?
I love eating too much. I love to go out, just
Okay.
to eat some good food. And then after the fact, it's like, man,
You have a favorite kind of food?
Seafood.
Okay.
I would drive around the country just to have, seafood.
Okay. So what's the biggest risk you ever took? I think I know the answer. Being 12 years old and coming to America with $10 in your pocket, not speaking the language. Right.
Actually, yes, that was the biggest risk I have ever taken in my life. I was trying to
That's
think.
probably the biggest risk that anybody I know has ever taken, Karen. So amazing. What's the worst piece of advice you ever got?
The knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is just information. Information implemented is power.
Okay. All right. What do you wish you were better at dealing with?
What do I wish I would better at dealing with? I guess not being too nervous, like right now.
Oh, you don't, well, you're not coming across as nervous. So You're not
But
coming across as nervous at all, so it's all good, right? Okay, so I can give you some advice on that later, okay?
Okay.
So what is the one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
Sometimes I don't meditate when I make a decision. I just jump.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
And what are you most passionate about?
Oh my God. Helping others, seeing a change, being part of the change.
Love it. Good stuff. Okay, so tell us, you've told us a lot today, but tell us something that most people don't know about you.
Well, most people know that, oh Jesus. I'm extremely, oh, that already probably know. I'm extremely disciplined. I love to take challenge. I'm not, I get scared, but I am not afraid. I
Okay.
always think that you can make money. So I am not tied to money. It's funny to say it, but I have never actually thought of the actual dollar. I'm only thinking of multiplying.
Okay. It's a wonderful philosophy. Amazing. Amazing. Good stuff. Okay. So can you tell our listeners what's the best way for them to contact you if they want to learn more about King of Kings LLC and learn more about tax planning and strategic financial planning?
So one of the best ways to get in touch with me will be through my email, which is Karen@kingofkingsllc.com. And that's also our website, kingofkingsllc.com. Our phone number is 678-249-9899. And, we're located here in Atlanta. We have 2 locations, and we help clients all over the 50 states.
Great. Thank you so much for being our guest today on Behind the Bench podcast, sponsored by Law Firm Marketing Pros. This is Josh Konigsberg signing off for now. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to another fabulous episode of Behind the Bench. I hope you take action on some insight and tips you learned today. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share.